Wise Chase is brought to you by FeedFox, your digital advertising strategist, and produced by DNA Media Productions.
Welcome to Wise Chase, a podcast for experts, startups, socialpreneurs, and passionpreneurs. Today we welcome our guest, Chrisanne Bodie. And even though she comes from a family of entrepreneurs who started one of the largest cleaning and janitorial companies across Canada, she talks about her own journey in starting multiple businesses completely unrelated to her family's and with her own resources. Stay tuned to hear about her failures, successes, and who her business idol is. So we want to welcome Chrisanne Bodie to our audience today.
Hi, thanks Jolene for having me.
So why don't you maybe tell our audience a little bit about your story, like how you came to be,
Sure.
Like where you started from being a kid, growing up, to sort of discovering that, hey, like,
Absolutely.
I don't want to have a job.
Yeah, for sure. I did grow up in an entrepreneurial family. So my parents owned several cleaning companies, janitorial companies. They kind of branched across Canada, so we did a lot of traveling, that sort of thing. So I grew up in that kind of environment. You have to relate on that level. They're working around the clock. They're working long hours, hard hours, and sometimes they don't necessarily have the kind of lifestyle that other parents have. They don't go to parties. They don't hang out with their friends. Same kind of thing. They're grinding it. So, when we would have our chats, it was about how they were doing in business, where they were at. And for a young kid, that's somewhat boring, right? I don't want to talk about it, so I would just listen, right? You would absorb as a child. At age 8, I was selling franchises, right? So, the maturity was a lot higher. When it came to going to university, I did it just because that's what you do. You follow, your tribe. And I did that, but there was always this unfulfilling thing kind of lingering. So between job after job, and it was fun at the beginning, you learn a lot about, working with people and working for people, but just a lot of series of bosses that, put me in a position where I had to level up. I had to say, hey, do I want to be in this scenario, or do I want to create my own future? If I'm working, 16 hours a day and making, only a certain amount because that's your salary, that didn't sit well for me. So I did the hard work, and I launched a couple different businesses, and of course some failed, some did okay.
What were some of those businesses that you launched?
So one of the ones that I started was Gym As You Go, and it was a pay-as-you-go approach to gym use. So you would buy a pass, and you could use multiple gyms around the city across Canada. Instead of buying one gym membership, you would have a pass that you could use for several memberships. So yoga, studio use, YMCAs, that sort of thing. And that was more of a tech-based company. So I did learn a lot in that. However, I didn't have the manpower or the resources to kind of push it to where it needed to go, or the funding. I didn't know about funding at the time. There were a lot of people that later on I found out I could have done things much differently and would have upped my game. But at that point I was quite young, inexperienced, had a great idea, but not the backing to support that. So that was one that I ended up selling. Didn't make much out of it, just got out of that.
You have a studio down in Kensington and Calgary called Raw Canvas.
Correct.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about that and the kind of industry it is, and even what people's outlook is, because it is an art business.
For sure. So essentially what I do is I get hundreds of people out of their comfort zone daily. And I do this by encouraging them to get into the creative process of painting. Two ways, one with a canvas, but the other one is with liquid courage. So we offer a fully licensed studio where you come in, you can grab a drink, you can grab some food, and it's very social. It's social art. A lot of people don't tend to do new things in their life, right, as they age. And really the essence of what people are doing is they're coming in and they're engaging in something that's new. It's art therapy, because the moment you put your paintbrush on the canvas, you know, it's you and your canvas. It's very meditative. A lot of people don't take that time for themselves. So we're kind of grasping a lot of different concepts in one. We also have a bigger portion of what we do which is separate but also part of the company, is Painting It Forward, and it's partly to do with fundraisers. A lot of charities kind of suffer, they need new ways of fundraising. So this is kind of an avenue for them where we take our cost on the portion of supplies and paying the teacher, but they set the ticket price, and then they can raise those funds towards their charity.
Oh, so that's awesome that you're sort of including some sort of social responsibility in with your business. And I just want to talk about a little bit about that. You know, one of the books that I read was actually, it's sitting right there, Start Something That Matters. And yes, you can borrow it if you want to. That is about the guy that started Tom Shoes.
Right.
You know, yes. Where, you know, he has a give back, you know, like he actually went into the business model where it was built around, you know, giving and trying to put shoes on kids' feet, you know, in third world countries where they were riddled with diseases that come through the feet when you don't have shoes on. So that was something that really inspired me, you know, and in terms of like where our economy is going, being a, what do they call it, a socialpreneur now, is that I think it's really important that we're building that into our business where we can give back to our, you know, local charities or our community in some sort of way.
I mean, last year we worked with over 150 charities. And
wow.
On top of that, what we do as well is we have a lot of demos. So when we teach a painting, we have a demo that we walk everyone through, and then that one sits there in the studio and it does nothing. And then we have, you know, accumulation of 10 demos. So what we also do is we give those to the children's hospital, we give them to people, they hang them. It's just nice artwork, and we just give those away. Or we also give them to fundraisers for silent auction items.
So there's certain books that have inspired me. Obviously, we talked about, you know, Blake Mykoski's. Sorry, Blake, if I'm saying your name wrong. But is there a book that you read? You know, I know you probably don't get a lot of time to read. I don't get a lot of time to read. But when you do read, is there something that just totally inspired you?
Actually, yeah. You know, I do read a lot, contrary to it.
You do read a lot?
Yeah, I do read a lot. I read at least 2 books a week. And I also have my audiobooks as well. So when I am driving, or I was doing the trips from Calgary to Edmonton, I would listen to audiobooks, and, you know, you start on 1 time speed and then I move it up to 2 times, and, you know, you soak in a few things. And there's some books that I, you know, audiobook more than once because they're just awesome reads. However, I do think in terms of books point out a lot of good knowledge. I've always been a quotes person. Even when I was young, people would be posting Backstreet Boys and Spice Girls on their walls, and I had quotes on mine. So that was kind of, you know, I started at a young age, and quotes really sat home with me. They were like my coach, my motivator. And I didn't think of how that was different than most people. I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed writing and that sort of thing. But in terms of books...
Your favorite book?
I wouldn't say my favorite book, but I do have to point out that I did do a course with Tony Robbins, and that was a game changer for, you know, my evolution.
Which course was that?
It was his Unleash the Power Within course.
And did you have to travel somewhere to do that?
I went to San Diego with my sister. We took this one together. And at that point, you know, I was kind of coasting, you know, dabbling in businesses and having part-time jobs and going to school and that sort of thing. And that was kind of what got me more focused and laser focused in on what I wanted to do. And it really, a lot of the things that he taught in that course really sat home with some neuro-linguistic programming and changing your beliefs on things, and questioning like where your beliefs come from. Do they come from your parents? What are you going to keep? What are you going to get rid of? And what's your game plan for your life, business, everything? So it was pretty intensive. And I'd gone to a lot of courses. We did get a workbook, but this one particular course really stood out and really took me from a 40% coasting to 110%. And, you know, that course just made me realize that I was different than most people. And instead of trying to fit in all the time and trying to find my niche with everyone else that was surrounded by me, to not diminish my light and to kind of excel. So once I, you know, had the confidence and put myself in that scenario within that first month of coming home from this course, I went and I never returned.
So that totally changed your life.
Yeah, it was action.
So
action,
Tony
action.
Robbins, he definitely changes lives.
He definitely does. Yes. He is the result of why I'm at where I am today. So I thought I would just mention that.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, Tony the man.
So, what are some of your experiences in the community when people find out that you're in the art community? Like, what are some of your thoughts that what people think about you as an entrepreneur being in an art business?
Do you do this full time? That is a good one. And I kind of laugh because I do work quite a bit of hours. And I think that the whole starving artist is still quite prevalent in what I'm doing.
Are you starving?
No, I'm definitely not starving. Nope.
Is your business quite profitable?
Yes, the business right now is thriving. I mean, I started Raw Canvas in the midst of a recession, and it was doing phenomenally. Like I said, people need that escape, right? So people need fundraiser money. That's still there. And arts is not one of those things that is really affected by recession, because it is an escape. It is something different. People still need activities. People still need something to do. And it is social, right?
Yeah.
Again, we have the alcohol component.
I really want to talk about how you came up with the idea and why you chose that industry and how you started it. Like everything from getting the building, your business plan.
For sure. So I was actually in my final couple of years of school writing papers, and I had recently moved from Vancouver to Calgary to help my mom out. She wasn't feeling well. She was very sick. So in that time I had a lot of free time, but I didn't really want a job either. And I wasn't going out and socializing because I was busy writing papers and heavily inundated with schoolwork. So I had this epiphany one day where I said to myself, I need to get out. Like I'm just going, a little stir crazy sitting in my house. But I didn't want a full-time job, so I wanted something part-time. However, I'd been really blessed to have really good careers in my life, and so making minimum wage didn't sit well with me. So I actually Googled top part-time jobs that make the most amount of money, least amount of time. Social painting popped up in the US, and we didn't have that in Calgary yet. So it popped up, I saw it, I said to myself, man, that is awesome. That is everything that would be fun to do and easy to teach and very scalable. So I had a look at the model. I worked with my competitor for a few events, I won't say who, and I went and launched and did it on my own. I found it pretty easy. I did maybe 4 or 5 events, and in those events, I had 40 people. In those 40 people, there was at least 5 to 10 people that rebooked following parties.
And was that the mobile business?
That was the mobile business. So
and what was that business called?
It's called Paint Party.
And it's still alive, right?
It's still alive. It's fully functioning. It's now running across Canada. So we specialize everything that we do at Raw Canvas. It's the same kind of concept, but we use pubs, restaurants. We can do home parties. We come to the office, that sort of thing. And
so the pubs and restaurants must love that because
they do.
You're kind of filling the room a little bit for them when they might be sort of in a slower time.
Yes. So yeah, that was the mobile business. Started that, and I was walking down Kensington with a friend one day. We were going for coffee, and I saw this spot that is now Raw Canvas, and it was available. And I kind of peered in, and I envisioned it. I saw it coming to life right in front of my eyes. I didn't plan on thinking that. I just walked by this spot that was a lease spot, ready to go, and I said to myself, I want this spot. So I contacted my landlord that owns the strip there, the Doblin Group, and I asked her, I said, what's the lease? Like, I'd never rented before. I didn't know what a lease op costs, all that stuff. That was very new to me.
Which normally need a business plan
You need a business plan. You need someone that's going to negotiate for you on your lease costs, all sorts of stuff that go in with that. And
what you're allowed to renovate, what you're not allowed to renovate.
Right. However, when I came in there, it was pretty much ready to go. I did need to do a change of use, but it's 1,000 square feet. It had a kitchen in there. It was a perfect spot for what I wanted to do. So I did get a little bit lucky there. And I didn't know the process of what that meant, opening up a business in a retail spot. I had no idea. I didn't even know that I needed to call someone for backup on that one.
Because you were just like winging it with these paint parties at pubs.
Yeah, I thought, this couldn't be that hard. I'll just get a business license and get going.
Yeah.
So luckily, I had some great support. Kensington has a great BRZ. And
what's BRZ?
It's the Business Residential Zone.
Okay.
So they help quite a bit with businesses and social media, and we have a really, really good structure with that. So, you know, I was lucky. I had a great landlord that, you know, gave me everything I needed. She gave me floor plans to take to the city, like everything, day of signing. So it made my process pretty streamlined. And I was open within 3 months, because it does take about 3 months to do a change of use.
You know, it can be scary to start a brick and mortar business where you have the overhead, you have employees, you know, you have supplies you're bringing in. Can we talk a little bit about how you funded the business? You know,
Sure. Yeah.
Some people will want to know that.
Yeah.
You know,
because Paint Party was mobile, we didn't have any overhead costs. You know, people pay per ticket, and we cover our costs.
Okay.
So there was a surplus of funds available from Paint Party to use towards that. We didn't have overhead with renting from restaurants and pubs, because we're partnered with them and bringing them business. They let us use them for free. So we didn't have the overhead costs of having a brick and mortar business, and we were already doing this for when I say we, I mean the company and I. We were already doing this for 2 years. So to move in and transition into a retail spot wasn't really that difficult. It just made sense. It made perfect sense, because at that point we were doing X amount of parties, and you look at the funds that you're not getting from alcohol sales and food sales, and now you're doing the math. So it was just kind of a natural progression where I saw an opportunity and I was like, let's just do it.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the only time that I batted my eyelashes a few times thinking, what am I doing, was when I was actually signing the lease, and I looked at the full amount that I was actually signing over.
Buyer's remorse for a second.
Yeah, big time. Like a purchase that I never made before.
I just drove the car off the lot. It's going to depreciate by $10,000.
Yeah, a car times like 4 times the amount you would normally pay for a car, right?
Yeah.
So you're looking at that, I'm looking at that and thinking, wow, you know, my hustle just went into 100% mode. So, you know, that was a little bit, you know, out of my comfort zone. But, you know, we all need something like that to grow, right?
Yeah.
And I was already at 2-3 businesses, and I felt it. It was a different feeling. It's like meeting your husband. You know when it's the right fit. This was definitely the right fit. I knew it was the right market, the right time. Everything was in line. And timing is a huge thing. Finances are a huge thing. I didn't have a partner. It is me. And everything was kind of set to transition and make that
So Paint Party kind of helped fund your brick and mortar business.
Correct. Without knowing that was the plan. Correct. That is very true. So I was also very lucky. Some of my friends that opened up a board game cafe in the city, they exchanged their tables, because they were opening at the same time as me, and they were getting custom tables. So they gave me all their tables from their business, which was very sweet. And I had a bunch of cubbyhole shelving.
Maybe you want to say their name, because they did.
Pips.
Pips Cafe.
Pips Cafe in Marta Loop. So, and we did like an exchange where I gave them my cubbyhole shelving to put their board games in. So it was a nice direct exchange.
So is Raw Canvas sort of where it's at for you? You want to do this for a long time? Or, you know, are you a serial entrepreneur? Do you have something else under your sleeve or up your sleeve?
I definitely do. I am a serial entrepreneur. And there are plans for Raw Canvas expansion. There are plans for Paint Party expansion. And I am working on something new called Yogaholics, which is similar to the Paint Party concept, where we use mobile locations such as pubs, restaurants to facilitate what we would call a yoga class, but it's more predominantly focused on the drinking side. So if you've never done a yoga class and that sort of thing, this would be for you. Basically, the concept is every class will have a different drink that is provided by the bartender, and it will be called something that has a yoga name to it. There will be a lot of burping, cheering, all sorts of fun stuff that you wouldn't find in a yoga class, even farting if you really wanted to.
Oh my goodness.
So it's not a mockery on yoga. It's just using yoga principles of movement. However, you're using movement by holding a beer.
Like, I know, even for me, I'm sort of a visionary. I have all these ideas and I want to execute them all. How do you stay focused, you know?
That's a very good question, Julie, because if you were to ask me that when I was in my 20s, when I was starting the few that didn't do so well, I would say that I wasn't as focused. That might have been why I didn't, seek out reasons for finding the appropriate resources or whatnot. It's a maturity thing. You know that if you focus on one thing and you do it well, you're going to do it really well. Once you start, spreading your energy, you have to really learn a balance, and you can only put in so much energy in each project. So I believe fully, based on where I'm at today, that it takes a good 5 years to focus on one business to get it right. That being said, if you have all your ducks in a row and you have management in place and you have great staff and you have reasons to walk away and it still can sustain or grow, that's when you can work on another project. And that's kind of where I'm at. Things are great. They are growing. People are in place to grow that. People that actually know what they're doing to grow it for me. And I can now take that and move on to another task. I do the work-life balance pretty well. And I'm at the point where this business that I'm launching, Yogaholics, is in the same realm. It's in the same avenue as my other businesses. They're all event-based businesses. So it's not like I decided to go open up a law firm or something that has no connection to one another. So I can use my partnerships with pubs, restaurants that I've already built with Paint Party to make that transition seamless. What I've learned with Paint Party, with the software that we use for payment gateways, all sorts of stuff can be easily transitioned into this. So it just makes it very streamlined.
Chrisanne, what can you tell our audience of entrepreneurs, something that they maybe need to avoid and something they just can't miss in terms of trying to make their business successful?
I'm going to go a little bit deep on this one. Is that okay? Good for some deepness?
Yes.
Okay. You really need to get to know who you are as a person. That is crucial to being an entrepreneur. You need to know why you're doing it, how you're going to do it, why you're doing what you're doing it for. And you also have to forward think on that one. Is this something that you want to do for the rest of your life? Because once you're in it, and you have to go for the long haul. So a lot of people like the idea of being an entrepreneur, or they want to, they just want to escape, but you need to know who you are. So if you are the person that never follows rules, you need to look at your traits, your beliefs, and all of that, and really get to know you as a person, because that's going to shape where your business is going. And that's really what I would say at the core value of everything. You need to know you.
So, one of the questions that I do ask, is balancing work, life, love, romance, with work,
Right.
and something that was sort of funny that came up for you is, is it okay that we talk about, like, you've done some online dating?
Oh yeah,
and
for sure.
and you come across some profile pictures of guys.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I never thought there would be a day where I'd be scrolling through online dating, seeing pictures of them in my studio, proud, holding up their canvases. And it was 3 in a row that I'd found, and I cracked myself up. And yeah.
I know you're single. You're beautiful. What's it like dating? Do men get intimidated by you? Is it hard to find somebody right now with the way online dating has sort of changed, technology now and how we go about things? Is it a hard market now to try to, find somebody that wants to put up with you being a serial entrepreneur?
They like the idea of someone that's self-sufficient, confident, and has done the work and is where they're at. But at the same time, it intimidates them because that means they have to level up, right? So, it is one of those interesting, things that I'm trying to work out right now, or else I wouldn't be single.
Well, speaking of single, you have a business
single,
crush.
like
You
a
have
Pringle ready to mingle.
You have a business crush, though.
Yes, but he's married. So.
Oh, so can we even say who it is?
It's Elon Musk. I find him absolutely awesome.
So what do they call it? They call it what?
Sapiosexual.
Sapiosexual.
Totally.
You like the geeky,
intelligent. I love geeky, intelligent people.
We would love people to be able to find you or contact you, or if they want to pick your brain, about business, or if they want to work for you, buy a franchise. Where can people find you?
I can be found at the studio personally, or if you want to reach out on Facebook or Instagram, my handles are Chrisanne J. Bodie. And for Raw Canvas, it's Raw Canvas YYC, Paint Party YYC.
And party is spelled Parti.
Correct. Yep. And then we also, if you want to, dabble in some yoga and drinking, that'll be Yogaholics YYC.
And how is Yogaholics spelled?
Just as it sounds. So yoga with 2 A's for AA. Aholics. YYC.
So I'm going to thank you so much, Chris-Anne, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come interview with me.
You're welcome.
With Wise Chase.
And thank you for having me. This was quite a pleasure. And I really believe in what you're doing with Wise Chase. This is absolutely amazing. So thank you again for having me. And, you know, this is going to be great for the community because a lot of entrepreneurs, you know, they need those resources. It's good to have that backing where they can hear other people's stories and get some inspiring tips. So, you know, what you're doing is amazing. Thank you.
Lovely. Well, Thank you so much, Chris-Anne.
You're welcome.
Thanks for listening. If you like this episode, please leave us a review. And if you have any comments, feedback, or even suggestions for questions that we should be asking our guests, even guests that you think we should interview, please leave us a comment on this episode at www.wisechase.tv.